Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be reacting to mean comments on my YouTube channel. Now, I am not going to talk about every single negative comment I've gotten on any of my videos because I think that's kind of time wasting, and just generally I feel like a lot of criticism on this channel is pretty warranted because all these videos I make, basically almost all of them, are unscripted and I constantly repeat myself, and some people point that out in the comments, and I think that's fair criticism. I think that's fine. But I mainly want to talk about the comments that I think are just flat out unfair and just flat out wrong, and I want to kind of deconstruct them to make it a bit more interesting. So let's talk about this one right here, and this is going to be the main focus of the video. So this is under my Audio-Technica R50X first impressions video, where the takeaway from that video was basically, I like the headphones for the most part. I found them comfortable, even though the ear cups were a bit small. I still found them pretty comfortable and pretty lightweight. And just generally, the only big problem I had with them for my own taste and for my own ears personally was that, to me, they were just too bright. And that was it. That was basically all I said in that video regarding to criticism. I was just saying that they were too bright for me personally, but I still liked the rest of the sound. I still liked how decently neutral they were. And I liked the bass. I liked, again, everything but some areas in the treble, which I felt like were a bit too bright for me personally. And that was it. That was basically my takeaway from this video. And this guy, I think, got kind of irrationally angry at me and saying, like, I'm part of the problem or whatever the fuck. So, again, I want to kind of deconstruct this a bit. So, there are so many V-shaped and U-shaped headphones on the market today. Like, almost every model of every manufacturer conforms to that dreaded Harman curve, and yet the man chooses the last sensible manufacturer to bitch about how bright their headphones are. Okay, his first point, I think, is fine. I think, yeah, there are a lot of V-shaped and U-shaped headphones still out there. But I think this second point is kind of not super accurate because there are still a lot of manufacturers that are releasing decently bright neutral sounding headphones that don't conform to the Harman target automatically. For example, Beyerdynamic, which he does bring up later, but I think it's not a fair point to bring up. I think it's just flat out just cherry picking, but I'll get to that later. But again, I think Beyerdynamic does release like extremely bright neutral sounding headphones to the point where a lot of people really don't like them and really just can't appreciate them because they're too bright for them personally. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with me criticizing a bright neutral headphone for just saying it's a bit too bright for me. And that's all I was saying in that video. I was not hating on anybody that like these headphones. A lot of people praise them and feel like the treble is manageable and they don't really mind how bright they are. In fact, a lot of people really like that. But again, for me personally, they were just a bit too bright. But I was not going after reviewers as saying like, you suck because you like these headphones. No, like these headphones as much as you want. I don't have a problem with that. But again, I'm going to say my own thoughts when I have the headphones in hand. I'm going to give my own thoughts and opinions on a headphone. So I'm not just going to conform to what a lot of reviewers are saying about these headphones. I'm not going to just automatically praise a headphone because it's well liked by a lot of reviewers. I'm going to say my own thoughts. That's the point of a review or a first impressions video. So, yeah. And also, there's also not only just Beyerdynamic, but also a lot of Hyphaman headphones are decently bright neutral, and a lot of people also criticize those headphones for being a bit too bright. So again, to say that like every manufacturer conforms to like more bass and more V-shaped style tunings is just kind of wrong in my eyes. And now we'll go to the second point. Do you understand that consumers, I'm assuming you meant to say like you, are the problem? AKG has lost its way. Even Beyerdynamic today caters to more bass. Looking at you, the T1 and T5 Gen 3, if you don't believe that. I think that's just, again, I think this is cherry picking. I brought this up earlier, but to say that Beyerdynamic is trying to cater to the more bass and more V-shaped sounding signature, again, I think these are just cherry picked examples because they still release a lot of very bright neutral headphones. In fact, I don't even think they've released any headphone that isn't decently bright in the treble. So to say that like they only released big bassy headphones nowadays, again, I think it's just wrong. I think it's just objectively wrong because they still release like variations of like the DT series, like the DT 990, the DT 770, whatever the fuck, and those are still very very bright. Like again, to say and try to boil down Beyerdynamic to the more bass stuff and the more V-shaped style tunings, it's just not accurate. And do you understand that consumers like you are the problem? How am I being what? I'm not advocating where am I the problem? I'm not advocating for more V-shaped and U-shaped sounding headphones if that is what this guy thinks, because maybe that's what this guy thinks just based on how he's wording this, but I'm not. In fact, I'm advocating for quite the opposite. I'm actually arguing in favor of neutral headphones, indecently bright neutral headphones. Right now, I am daily driving the HD560Ss, which are kind of known for being decently bright in the treble, and they are very, very neutral, so they're bright neutral. So again, to say that I am part of the problem, I'm advocating for like V-shaped or U-shaped, very bassy sounding headphones, it's the opposite of what I think, because I'm actually advocating for less bass than a lot of other headphones, because for me, the bass is just too much for my own ears. And that's the problem with this comment in general. He's not taking into aspect that people have different hearing, that people can hear different frequency ranges, and just realize that everybody has different ears. That's the point of giving your review and giving your own opinion, is to get somebody else's perspective. Like, I don't really get this argument. And he's also saying that Audio-Technica as well as Grado are two brands remaining on the market that still offer. No, again, I think this is just flat out wrong. A lot of companies still offer their like older-ish bright neutral headphones up on the market on Amazon, whatever the fuck. Just they offer it and it's available to buy. Like nobody's preventing you from getting like older Beyerdynamics or older Hyphamans or any other bright neutral headphones besides Audio-Technica and Grados. There are still a lot of bright neutral sounding headphones on the market, especially by, again, Hyphaman and Beyerdynamic. Don't let manufacturers change their way due to BS reviews like this one. I promise you no manufacturer is going to change their way due to this really unpopular first impressions video. Nobody's going to see this and say, oh, for my next headphone, because of this one first impressions video, I'm going to make my headphones less bright. No, they're going to tune the headphones to how they want to tune it, whether or not somebody likes that style of tuning or not, because they personally like it a lot more. Like, I don't get what he's trying to say here. Seriously, go buy something else from any brand of your choice. Focal, Meze, Odyssey, Hyphaman, Sennheiser, Hollow, whatever that is. Whatever, leave Audio-Technica and Grado alone. And I didn't really bring this up, but I do think part of this comment is also just kind of white knighting for brands as well, and just kind of brand loyalty in general, because again, Audio-Technica and Grado are not the only brands that still have bright sounding neutral headphones on the market today. There are still a lot, again, from Hyphaman and Beyerdynamic that are objectively bright, like objectively hot in the treble. You can see graphs. I don't think that's like an accurate representation all the time for like how a headphone actually sounds, because again, everybody's ears are different. You are going to hear a headphone differently to how it looks on the graph. That's just how it is. But again, they are objectively bright. And to say that these are the only brands nowadays that are offering bright neutral headphones is just wrong. It's just flat out wrong. And again, I think that part of this is just being a little brand loyal, which I don't really get for like Audio-Technica, especially because while they're not like super popular in the headphone space, like not nearly as popular as like Hyphaman and Sennheiser, they're still decently popular. So to act like they're like the underdog or whatever and say like they're the only brand that's releasing these headphones that I really, really like the sound signature of, again, I think it's just wrong. I think it's just wrong, and that's it. I know that might not sound like a convincing argument, but I think I've deconstructed this enough. Look at this comment that actually has a decent amount of likes. In fact, the most amount of likes. I think this is just, again, unfair. And it's similar to that last comment where I feel like it's just failing to take my own perspective into account, because I said this in this video and every other video I do on headphones. Like I said before, I call every headphone extremely bassy because that's just the way my ears are. They perceive everything as extremely bassy, to the point where even IEMs that are decently neutral, I still have to tune them down in an EQ in the bass department by around like 10 dB, at like 9 or 8 dB minimum, because of how bassy everything sounds to me. So I called the 560S a bass cannon, which, by the way, again, I still use because I still really, really like, but I have them EQ'd down because for my ears, they are too bassy. And that's why I said in this video that they were bass cannons. To say that how my ears perceive the sound, which is just really, really bassy because everything is bassy to me. And saying that my video is completely pointless because I'm just simply giving my own perspective on how I perceive the sound, I think it's just, again, it's unfair. Like, you're failing to take into perspective how other people's ears can be different than yours, how people can perceive like certain frequency ranges as way more powerful than you do. Like, again, I think it's just very, very unfair. And I said, just generally, they're bass cannons for me. I'm not saying that they are objectively bass cannons. These are very, again, bright neutral headphones. Not very bright neutral, but they are bright neutral headphones. And there are no ways super bassy. But again, for my ears, for like the millionth time, they are just too bassy for my ears because everything is too bassy for my ears. I go out and about, too bassy. Go like listen to a speaker, it's just too bassy. Go listen to IEMs, too bassy. Everything is too bassy for my ears because that's the way my ears are. It's bad. I hate it. I don't like it as well. I don't like how my ears perceive bass. It sucks. I wish I wouldn't have to EQ everything down, but it's just the way that my life is. This is the way that my ears are, and I just have to live with it because you can't change your ears. You're just born with the frequency response, the frequency response, your ears are more accustomed to, and that's it. That's just how your ears are. So that is basically going to be it. Again, I mainly just harped on that first comment, and I know it's only 2 comments that I've talked about in this video. It's a bit petty to even talk about this in the first place, but again, I just want to give my own perspective and say that I think that both of these comments were a bit unfair and just generally just kind of rude for the sake of being rude and failing to take my own perspective into account and just realize that I am giving my own thoughts. I'm giving my own feelings, and I will have different feelings than a lot of other people relating to stuff just based on how my ears perceive sound because everybody's ears are different. And I think a lot of people fail to realize that, especially these comments. So that is going to be it, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.